Welcome, everyone, to TJ Speaks. I am your host. Today is June 2nd, year 2023. Okay, so we have a wonderful show tonight. Our topic of our show, one second, guys. Sorry about that, guys. Yes, today's topic is manufacturing voters. Ah, one of a very interesting topic, guys, we have planned for you today. Okay, this is another one of the taboo subjects that is not able to um, be openly discussed, but it's very, very relevant to what's going on today. Okay, so sit back and enjoy the show. Okay, so what are we talking about? What do I mean when I say manufacturing voters? Manufacturing voters. It's the process that I feel and a tool that I feel that has been used by majority Democrat blue cities and states since 1964, post Civil Rights Act. That is the process of willful ignorance to the U.S. Constitution and immigration law, willful blindness to the separation of powers, and we're going to get into that a little bit. But willful ignorance to the law. Okay, post 1964, we had the Democrat Party help usher in um, 1865 Immigration Act. Okay, this act led to the increase of numerous visas without such enforcement. And this act, as I discussed in my last show, was no coincidence. This was not an accident that Democrat Party, after being defeated, after the Jim Crow laws were defeated, that they decided, well, let's just all of a sudden issue out all of these visas without any enforcement. Okay, fine, to issue these visas. But you have to understand that these people are not stupid people. Okay, I feel that before, when we have this discussion, we have to respect each other, and we also have to respect the fact that a lot of people are very well educated. So let's not discount what happened as stupidity. There's a lot of very highly educated people, and out of respect for them and the education, I'm holding them to a higher regard. So that's not an accident that our congressmen and our senators allowed all of these visas to be issued by the U.S. government and not counteract the increase with enforcement. Okay, so Black people, Black American descendants of slaves communities was finally getting some type of recognition, some type of legislation to help them realize the promise of America, which was equal citizenship. So blacks were very, I would assume, I wasn't born in 1964. I would assume they were very pleased with that piece of legislation. Okay. But then suddenly something happened in America. We had we had all these airplanes of people coming over, and shortly after, these highly educated, a lot of the people that came over were highly educated immigrants. They were coming from affluent, political background, political active families in their home countries. These were not stupid people These were not people that was oppressed wherever they were coming from. They were not denied an education similar to what the descendants of American slaves were denied. They had access to savings and access to um, equal pay back home in their country. So the oppressions that happened to the descendants of American slaves did not happen to these people. Okay, so they get over to America, and what started changing was we started having a trend of all of these foreign students, for example, and I believe that's where it started. All of these foreign students deciding at the same time, ironically, all right, around 1964, 1965, to have a baby in a foreign country. And what they realized was that that state, well, for example, the state of New York, would give them an identical birth certificate to the birth certificates that was issued to the citizens, the descendants of American slaves, and the rest of the other American citizens. And it didn't take long to figure out if I'm a person of another country and the state of California is treating my baby and giving my baby the exact same documents that they give to their citizens, well, by golly, I can pass this baby off as a U.S. citizen, knowing as an educated foreign student, I'm very educated now. I understand that I've never applied for citizenship in America. But here it is, I have this wonderful opportunity where the states, and this is where willful ignorance, where the states were willfully um, pretending as if everyone that was giving birth in their hospitals was the exact same citizen, knowing that we had an influx of people that's not from this country. They speak with foreign accents, but no alarm bells, you know, would ring off, say, hey, maybe we need to document. And this is where I say it's willful. The fact that your state governors, had all of these foreign families give birth in their hospitals, which is unusual for a tourist. It's very unusual for a person just going to school to suddenly decide, well, I'm giving birth right here. These are unusual occurrences. And how do you know that? Because I also travel, and I know if I were pregnant in a foreign country, I would go home to give birth to my baby. Also, if I'm on vacation, I don't go on vacation 6, 7 months pregnant. Okay, I'm about to give birth. Why would I be traveling, 6 and 7 months pregnant? So then it became this thing. The community, you know, uh, was alerted and was like, well, they spoke to their local politicians, and the politicians will say, well, I have to treat these people exactly the same as you, especially to the descendants of slaves, to the black citizens. Black citizens said, wait, where are we getting all of these foreign people in our community? Where are these people coming from? And they tell them, well, their baby was born here, just like you. And at that time, our grandparents, what a lot of foundational Black Americans don't realize is that our grandparents were uneducated people. These people were highly and severely oppressed, and a lot of them couldn't read. So, um, the officials, the politicians, was able to get over and on these people and tell them some mumbo jumbo, but no one had the mental intelligence or training to say, wait a minute, well, if you're treating me the same as everyone else and other people are not citizens, either I'm not a citizen or you giving these people constitutional rights. as soon as they step foot on the soil, which we know that's not being a foundational Black American, people that have been on the soil for over 500 years. Constitutional rights is a privilege. It is something that's reserved for citizens. And our experience and history documented that because we were always born on America's soil, especially as children of slaves. But no one has ever, this is where I don't allow people to pretend that they didn't know. No one in America has ever made the mistake of giving a slave freedom papers by accident. But so suddenly, after Jim Crow was defeated in 1965, you telling me the government is making a mistake giving all of these foreign parents citizenship documents for their baby? That's bull. That's not real. That's propaganda. And and the Democrats, oh, they were the party that suddenly, that wrote Jim Crow, that formed the KKK, suddenly became such so-called nice people, air quotes, nice people. Suddenly, no, all of a sudden, no need to, discriminate. All of a sudden, all of these people from all around the world is getting extended constitutional rights overnight by the same people that oppress the descendants of American slaves and foundational Black Americans. Okay, so we have to take into account who was what time of year was it? Who was doing these things? Okay, all right. So and that diving deeper into the conversations, you begin to realize that there was a reason. They had a very good reason for doing this, and that reason was they needed a voter base to get into America as soon as possible. The Constitution and Immigration Naturalizations Act was suddenly important to disregard because the Democrat Party was losing power. Okay, blacks finally were getting some type of police protection when they went to vote, and the Democrat Party and its KKK could no longer choke, beat, intimidate the black voters into either not voting or voting for Democrat. And the Democrats saw the end of their, I call it, tyrannical era. So they immediately went into action. And this was the solution. And just like I said on my last show, the immigrants of that time would tell you their testimony, how they saw the black students, the black Americans, outside of the universities. And remember, the universities was down with the racism. They were down with the Jim Crow. They were down with the discrimination. So the Democrat Party and these universities that we have today, that's still around today, they were in it together to make sure that those black students never step foot in that on that university. They, the universities had to have an affirmative action law because they were so racist. Everyone wants to cry about affirmative action. Oh, they don't like it, they hate it, but no one cry about the abuse that the foundational Black Americans were subjected to, and how the universities willfully chose to push a globalist propaganda, willfully miseducated the American people about the 14th Amendment, willfully um, made sure that they was going to run interference and making sure the students, the Black American students, never stepped foot on their campus. And one of the ways they did it was ushering a new generation of people that's going to counteract the now more powerful foundational Black American community. Okay. So the universities and the Democrat Party had total interest and motivation um, to shut down the Black Power movement. They had all of the reasons and motives to do such a thing because the repercussions of Jim Crow was real. The racism that was experienced by foundational Black Americans were real, and these people meant business. So, what I'm saying to my audience tonight is if you're a foundational Black American, in 1964, the battlefield changed. They were no longer going to fight you in your face. What they were doing, the battlefield is for the next generation. That's where the war, the not physical war, but that's where the political war was waged. It was not on you. Even to this day, the political war is against your children, the future generations. So these people was readying this entire population that they like to refer to as the Second America, born to all of these foreign non-citizen people, right? They was growing this population to counteract the voting rights of the foundational Black Americans. And what the Democrat Party realized while they were trying to destroy the Black community was that, wow, we can really gain some political power from all of this. Acting ignorant to the law, acting ignorant to the separation of powers. So, what did blue states started to do? They started being virtual. At that time, they didn't call it sanctuary city, but they started to have this rainbow coalition. I'm sure that a lot of listeners heard of that before, where in which we had Jesse Jackson, one of the stooges of the Democrat Party, issuing some rainbow coalition. And as a foundational Black American, and growing up listening to my parents' conversation, no one understood what the hell was Jesse Jackson talking about rainbow? Where was he getting this from? But see, that was all a part of the agenda. And all of those key words is documented in history and in time and video and recorded. That rainbow coalition. That was building up this second America, quote. You will also see that documented in history and time. These quotes were said by the likes of Hillary Clinton and other very high profile Democrats. And a lot of Americans didn't understand what they were referring to. What they were referring to as the Second America, as a rainbow coalition, was this movement that they did to replace the future voters with the future voters of America, right? Replace them with this foreign, more globalist agenda, for a foreign globalist population of people that was given this birth certificate that the states gave them without having the power to do so. And so we're going to dive into that separation of powers. Oh, baby, this gets real deep. The conspiracy against the foundation of Americans, it's real. So, well, okay, separation of powers. And our U.S. Constitution, the genius of the forefathers. And this is where I would like to reference this. This brings to mind what President Donald Trump has recently said in the news. President Donald Trump recently made news how he's going to end the birthright citizenship on day one of his administration. I was shocked to hear a president actually say it. You know how I feel. I know that this is being abused. But yeah, so this recently made news in the headlines. Okay. And I don't believe that he's wrong. I actually know that he's right. And I'm going to tell you why. We have this thing in the Constitution, it's called separation of powers. And when I tell you guys, the forefathers, I don't care what anybody say. They like to call them this names racist. Those guys that wrote this Constitution, right? You have to remember they was writing this it was basically all white men. All right, white men were not writing a Constitution that was racist to other white men. They only considered white men. So there was no race. And when they wrote this law, they was really writing very, very good law. They was the color was not um considered when they wrote these laws. They wrote these laws to make sure they protect this country called America. And they wrote it up really good. Okay. And this is where I believe the blue states, the Democrats messed up big time. It's nice that the states want to interpret the 14th Amendment and everything, but the problem that states have is that the 14th Amendment and the Constitution is not for their interpretation. They don't administer federal law. They abide by the federal law, but they're not the place where we get our citizenship. And there lies the genius of the founding fathers. Because the founding fathers knew if we allowed states to be able to manufacture their own citizens by handing out citizenship, each state can hand out uh, their own citizens and interact with the foreign community, then based on the Constitution, they're going to benefit by immigrating more people to their state. And the forefathers didn't want that. They didn't want one state having more power than the other. Because our House of Representatives is based on our population. Okay, and they can't have states doing their own immigration. It will be a zoo. Every state will want to attract different people from different parts of the world because then it will benefit them in the House of Representatives in Congress. So, and they didn't want they wanted politicians to respect the citizens. If politicians can just create their own citizen, then they don't need to respect the votes of citizens. They don't need to respect the input of citizens. So that's why they created the separation of powers. Specific powers that's enshrined in the Constitution to make sure this doesn't happen, to make sure the federal government has its particular powers. And one of the most powerful powers the federal government have is immigration. And then make sure the states have their powers of local governance. And the courts have their power of interpreting the law. So no one group can be the can be the administrator of the federal law, the local governments, and the judge. There's not one place you can go to and receive all three at one time. But and this is where the craftiness of these lovely politicians came into play, was trying to use the very people that they discriminated against, trying to use those people, the foundational Black Americans, the descendants of slaves, and trying to use them in a way where they could usher in this new voter class that they were creating. And the reason why I call them voter class, because that was the purpose of giving them identical state birth certificates to you and your child as a citizen. If you notice, they don't make this mistake or any other document. If you're under 21 and you get a driver's license, the state will make sure they put big red letters on your driver's license as under 21, because they never want you to pretend to be over the age of 21, able to drink and to receive the rights and benefits of a person that's over 21 while you're 18. They want to make sure they document that This country is always documenting everything. But when it comes to the birth certificates, where the state saw an opportunity, they saw that there was no federal oversight, that they was able to pass state they passed identical birth certificates that they gave to their students, to their citizens. They passed that to the new foreign preferred people. Okay, they passed them identical state birth certificates, and they didn't even waste their time to document on those birth certificates that that child was born to foreign parents. Now, why is that? That's a very important detail that the states accidentally forgot to write down. And what did the foreign people do? The parents do? They sought an opportunity, present that birth certificate that claims that their child was a U.S. citizen or that looks identical to, it don't even have to say U.S. citizen. The fact that it looks identical to the paperwork that the citizens received, they passed that along to the passport office. And from there, they started collecting. They realized no one was checking and verifying the citizenship. No one was checking and verifying immigration. So they was receiving U.S. passports without ever applying to immigration, without ever applying to citizenship. This business got so good. They made money selling how to collect U.S. passports and U.S. citizenship documents under the federal government's nose. They started creating birthing centers in California and all the parts all over the country. They started selling access to U.S. Social Security benefits online. This is a big business in Russia. The European countries are just as guilty of doing this as any other non-European country. So we bring in um, President Trump, who, just like I said, mentioned he's going to end that scam. Because what the American people don't understand, you're being scammed. These are not stupid people. Think about what they're doing. They're taking the birth certificate, passing it up to the federal government, collecting a U.S. passport that they know as an immigrant they're not entitled to. It's in the immigration law. If you are not a U.S. citizen, you're not entitled to hold a U.S. passport. Period. You cannot, as an immigrant, walk around with a U.S. passport. That is against the law. They know it. You're not dealing with uneducated people. These are very highly educated people. They're not stupid people. And they know that the U.S. government, the states, the blue states, have had an increase of population and an increase of House representatives in Congress because of their scam. So it's like one hand washes the other. And if you notice the Democrat Party, if you pay attention, a lot of the members of that party and leadership, they are not children of citizens. You're going to start seeing the politicians hide their parents. They're not going to tell you, look up their Wikipedia page. They are concealing their parents for a reason. Because the whole part of the scam, the integral part of the scam, is to not allow you to know who they are and where they come from. To not allow you to realize, wait a minute, why is my state giving foreign parents an identical birth certificate as mine, a taxpaying citizen? Why they know that we have all these foreign people, especially in New York. We have millions of foreign people showing up at our hospitals, giving birth to beautiful babies, but they are making sure they're not documenting on the birth certificates that the parents are not citizens. And then the colleges and universities run interference by pumping this 14th Amendment. It's because of the 14th Amendment. But wait a minute, you're the state. You don't need to worry about immigration law when you're the state. That's not your business. The immigrants belong to the federal government. Let them go to the federal government and work that out. You don't need to decide who's a citizen and who's not. So why the states feel responsibility to administer a federal immigration law, the federal constitutional law, is beyond me. That's not their purpose. That's not the job of the state. But, you know, we were all supposed to be born yesterday. And the foundational Black Americans, we were never supposed to wake up. But God is good. God allowed us to be able to read finally after hundreds of years of oppression. Um, Many of us are first generation college students. No other relative before us attended college. This is year 2023. Black foundational Americans have been in this country for 500 years. Why are we still getting first generation college students? That has to show you and to display that something is terribly wrong. People that have been in the country for 500 years, locked out of the college institution till this very day. Harvard only has 1% of foundational Black Americans attending their college. 1%. The most of them, it's not an accident that all of the colleges rather have international students. They're all in line. The Democrat Party's doing it. They're giving out the birth certificates to foreign people under the nose of the federal government, the states, and the universities are doing it. They're giving out all of the college seats to the foreign people, to the unknowing foundational Black Americans, the actual U.S. citizens coming forward. They know that most of the majority of students were living overseas because they're not American. They got sure they have the same exact American birth certificate. But what's missing is the adherence to the law. What's missing is the 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 constitutional rights. The universities are very well aware of what's going on. The states, especially blue states, are very well aware of what's going on. The only ones that may not be aware is the actual U.S. citizens of all races. You don't understand that the your future generations are being under attack. The future is being attacked. That's why they have pumping all of this stuff involving children, and why they want to brainwash the kids, and they want to do this to the kids, and everything has to do with the kids, because the gateway to winning this globalist agenda is through the children. And that's where we need to all focus our efforts. We need to have laser vision moving forward. We need to become aware and focus on what's going on with the children. Since they're attacking the children so much, and they want the children to know this and that and everything that the parents are not willing to teach their kids, we have to also pay attention to what's going on to the children. And that will conclude our conversation today. I hope, um, you know, that people really absorb what's being said today. Okay. And just to recap, is that your state is working and fighting against your future generation. They are willfully ignorant, playing ignorance to the law and ignorance to the fact that they have a lot of foreign people going on vacation, have given birth to their hospitals. And what the state does is they hand them the same identical document as yours. And that allows the foreign parents to present their child to the U.S. government as a citizen without going through proper immigration and naturalization. And the purpose of that is for future political power and future votes. So I wish everyone well. Have a good night. Um, I enjoy sharing the knowledge with my fans, and have a blessed evening. Thank you.